and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original in the order of release. We have Netflix 198th film from 2019. It's the Christmas romantic comedy, A Christmas Prince, The Royal Baby. It's directed by John Schultz, stars Rose McIver, Ben Lamb, and Sarah Douglas. I'm Jesse, and as always, with MJ. How you doing?
I'm well. We get to close off a trilogy. I guess it's going to stay as a trilogy. Maybe there's going to be another one. I don't know. But look, for now, this is the end of the Christmas Prince trilogy, the famous Netflix Christmas Prince trilogy.
I was very excited about this because I thoroughly enjoyed the first one, and the second one sort of dropped a little bit. So I'm excited to talk about the third and final and see where we go from there.
To see how they bounce back. Is that what you're hoping for?
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I can't tell you too much too early because I don't want to ruin anything, but we'll spoil this one. So if you haven't seen it, give us a pause, come back. But we do start off with our fast flicks, which is a quick little summary of what the film's all about. So what's this one about for you?
Well, yeah, the Christmas Prince trilogy comes to an end on the eve of yet another festive season when King Richard and Queen Amber are awaiting the impending birth of their first child. There's a little bit more there, but that's kind of like when they sat down and wrote the nuts and bolts of this movie. I think that was it, and then they realized they had to add a bit more in it. But I think that they just wanted to make a movie about them having a kid.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later. I think that's it. For me, this is a peace treaty needs to be signed, but it's stolen, and without the signatures, it might lead to war, and a baby isn't yet ready to come. It might be cursed if the treaty isn't signed.
It will be cursed.
Spoilers. We will spoil this, like we said. So, what could you discover about this film coming to Netflix?
Look, we do see this a lot with these cookie cutter Christmas films that there's not a lot of information on them because no one's really tooting their horn about them getting made and getting excited about the production, and there's not really very many exciting stories about it. So I don't have too much, but the filming for this did take place between March and June of 2019. So when you think of the fact that that's probably only 3 months after, or 3 or 4 months after the previous one aired, they ticked it off and said, let's go for it. They don't mess around, so I give them respect for that. They filmed it again in Romania. I love that they go on location to Europe to film these films. Beautiful sceneries, I must say. But considering, I reckon the budget's about $45, they probably spent it a lot on traveling the cast, things like that. But so yeah, finished filming in June. So that's obviously when post-production started, and then it was released on the 5th of December 2019. Obviously, Netflix worldwide as a Netflix original film. A little bit later than the previous two films that were released in November. No doubt, just trying to build that anticipation for all the fans waiting a little bit longer for it to come out. And the only other thing that I want to mention, Jesse, I do always look at IMDb in the trivia section. There's very rarely good things that come out of that. But there was one thing that I have to call out because it's in the section where it says there's going to be spoilers here, and it says Rose McIver and Ben Lamb would later reunite again in The Princess Switched Again as characters in this movie. So we know in the other Christmas movies Netflix does, they watch TV and they watch it. How is that an interesting fact? How is that a spoiler? And secondly, 17 of 17 people found that stat interesting. The fan base of this film trilogy just staggers me.
I read that too, and I couldn't work out whether it was just like on the TV in the background or whether they actually are in the movie. I'm pretty sure they're in the movie from what I could read.
Oh well, that's different. Yeah, I apologize.
Really
I just assumed they were watching it on the movie like they do in all the other movies.
Yeah,
okay, that's a little bit different.
From what I could read, I think they're actually like in the crowd at a wedding or something, like as like being there as representatives.
I do apologize.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but that's what I gathered.
That would be better. That would be much better then.
But yeah, like you mentioned, like they like to connect all of them together. So
I'm all for that.
Yeah, they talk about the Princess Switch in this one as well. And the only other interesting fact that was on IMDb to see was, there's a scene where they do a baby shower and they use the baby photos of the cast on the wall, which I thought, oh, how sweet. That's sweet.
Which you have to, right? And they would do that in so many films when you've got old photos of them. And with the beauty of Photoshop these days that you can put them together in a photo and things like that, you'd be crazy not to use that.
I agree. no translations or any good across the world. Everyone pretty much stuck with the royal baby for this one. But the tagline, did you see the tagline?
Oh, I actually saw it, but I can't remember it.
I don't mind this. I think it's not too bad. It's the holiday season. Oh, sorry, this holiday season, expect the unexpected.
Yeah,
Because
I did say that, and I agree.
Yeah, not bad.
I think it's not a bad, not a bad one, considering obviously what happens as well. There's a bit of the unexpected happening in the film. So yeah, I didn't mind it.
Good job, whoever wrote that. What were the critics and audiences saying about this one?
So I want to mention IMDb, and this is just so this had 6,800 ratings on IMDb. The first movie had 20,000, which is great for as I said, like a Hallmark Christmas movie. Second movie had 11,000, so we're seeing that dip already, and they thought, let's just make a third one to see if there's still interest in it. And clearly, it's dipping again. That's why I don't think there's going to be another one. But it's a 5.4 out of 10 on IMDb, off, as I said, just under 7,000 ratings. Letterboxd is a 2.1 out of 5, and that one's got just over 8,000 ratings. So not great, but I don't. This movie isn't being made to get big stars from critics and movie fans. So.
And Rotten Tomatoes, it's exactly the same for both critics and audiences. It sits at 36%. So 11 reviews from the critics, so Rotten, and the audience, there's more than 100 though. So but obviously sitting on that lower end of the scale, we're probably saying that not many people actually enjoyed this one, but that will lead us to our early thoughts. So what are your thoughts on this one?
I've probably already given it away in my demeanor in the first 5 minutes of this podcast, but you have to remember as well, I didn't enjoy the first film when we first did it. It was the first year of Netflix Christmas movies, and this was by far the worst one personally. The second film, you might not remember this, but I remember this. I took a bit of a 3-month sabbatical from the podcast. I watched this film, and before we recorded it, I was just like, sorry, I need to take a bit of a break. And it was mainly I was busy in my life. Work was busy. I had cricket finals, and I had about to have a baby. But I didn't even record this podcast after watching it because it kind of just tipped me over the edge. So I didn't like the second film. So I'm coming into this film pretty low. And it was rubbish. And I think my lack of patience for some of the things that happened in the film was drowned out by the fact that I've now seen 3 of them. So I've had to endure, so to speak. I mean, I guess I kind of touched this before. How do you make a movie about having a baby? Because that's what they wanted to do. Like, we got a movie about them falling in love, then having a wedding, then having a baby. But that's not a movie, right? So you kind of need to add a threat to what they're doing. And in this case, they kind of wanted to add a threat to the baby, which isn't even born. But you can't be too sinister because it's a nice, fluffy movie. So you make this absurd curse that no one actually believes in the film anyway. And then you kind of just go through with it, and it ends up being a real toilet bowl of a film.
Good early thoughts. I was the opposite. I enjoyed, out of the Christmas ones we did at the start, the first one I enjoyed of this. So like the first one, they meet. The second one, they get married. The third one, have a baby. This is the worst of the 3. That's what I thought.
So it did get worse, yeah. I thought it was me. It did get worse, yeah.
It definitely got worse. Let's talk about some characters. And it's very hard to, like we've done 2 episodes on these films already. So there's not much further to add about any of these characters because we've said it before. But I'm listening to what you've got to say.
Well, I'm going to be turning the tables on you, Jesse, because this is your trilogy, and I go first every week, and I enjoy it, and I revel in the moment. But I'd like you to start, and I'll follow on with what you have.
I feel like you've gone. There's nothing to say about this movie, so I'm just going to put it out to you, so you can have a go. Let me do this on one where they've got some
very little.
Like, go to me first when we've got some depth in some characters, please. Oh God. All right, we'll start with Queen Eva. This is a stitch up. Yep. You're off next week. So she still sees herself as a journalist. And obviously from the past, we know that she has been deceitful at times. But now she's sort of in that moment where she's happy to chill and be the queen who represents all that's sort of good, and she's embraced by all, and she's just reveling in the moment of that sort of stuff. But realistically, she's still this middle class chick from New York who wants a normal life for her kid, but they don't show you the disparities as much in this one as they have previously, which probably could have added a bit more to this film. And the issues, and I'll probably harp on this a lot in this, that the reason people like these films were generally because of I'm not saying that everyone likes these films, but the relationship between her and King Richard and the issues they face as a couple. And in this film, we didn't get any of that at all, really. There's like one conversation where they talk about, what school are we going to send our kid to? And that was it. Like, if you build more of that into the film, you get a lot more input from the audience, because you're connecting to characters that you know already about, and you don't have to worry about some mythical curse.
Yeah, and you remove that relatability, right? They're actually dealing a lot with king and queen issues, which we don't deal with every single day. We're not running countries, albeit how small that country is. But I felt similar probably to what you were saying. She just seemed to be a little bit more ridiculous, I guess, less grounded in that sense as well. It felt like she was very big and large and a bit silly. And I think that probably coincided with the whole film in general. Yeah.
And I think, like, you can say the same about King Richard. For me, for this film, this is the most unrealistic of a character I reckon I've seen in a long time. And, you can deal with that type of character as long as you've got those connections with the other characters, and you can sort of feel where they're coming from. Whereas this time, he wasn't given much to work with, and it was just like, cool, I'll be the sidekick that needs to build the baby's crib, or be the klutz, or show that I'm posh and I've got a nice family. And that was all we got from him in this one.
I kind of feel, and I felt this nearly the whole time, Ben Lamb, who plays King Richard, I kind of feel like he's in on the joke. I think he knows this character sucks, and these films are really cheesy, and he doesn't really want to do it, but he does it. And I get the vibe that and I kind of feel on board with it. I think I like him in that sense, because he's sort of in on it, but there's not much he offers in this film.
Yeah, well, King Tai and Queen Ming, they're the two new characters that we haven't met before, the new additions to the series. I was quite excited that this was a good opportunity to have some other leaders to show different ways of leadership and make that comparison and sort of reflect what's going on and changes in leadership and royalty and things like that. And I really liked King Tai. I thought, he was my favorite character in this one, even though we didn't get much. I just felt like he was the most down-to-earth, polite bloke in this film. And on the other hand, Queen Ming, like, I feel like they really set it up that she's sassy, she's against everything, she's happy with her role, but it was really obvious that you knew that this was going to be the character we were going to see a transition from into a strong female lead, because she was going to somehow connect with Amber. And I wish that this had been done better. I wish that we had have got more from these two characters and seen more moments of, the counterparts working with each other.
It's a good point. I mean, King Tai was the most laid-back king ever, but similar to what you said about Richard, he was kind of a nothing role in that sense. Like, I agree. I liked him too. Seemed like a good guy, broke the ice a lot of the times, didn't take things too seriously when they didn't need to be taken seriously. But that's kind of all we get. And with Queen Ming, I agree with you there as well. They tried to make her seem like she was going to get in the way of everything, but they couldn't maintain that for very long, because they had to turn it around to make sure that she ended up being an ally and a friend to Amber. So it's a difficult thing to do sometimes, to make that switch, even when you know it's going to happen. They need to push you down the rabbit hole far enough to think, oh, maybe it's not going to happen. But in this case, they kind of turned it really quickly and thought, oh, well, she's actually not the villain in this film. She's actually exactly what we thought she's going to be. And they do it really early. Not to say I didn't like the character, but it didn't really have much of an impact.
That's the same with Simon. Like, we've known in the past too that they always try to set him up as the dodgy guy who's there's something going on. He's a bit of a sleaze, ex-girlfriend's back on the scene, can't sort of hide the feelings, like really obvious, to try and set him up as being bad again. Just like this big bluff for the audience that doesn't work and wasn't really needed. Like, this is three times in a row now where they've tried to set him up as something that just really frustrated me.
Well, the first time he was like, they were right. He was doing the wrong thing. The second time, you can sort of go, we don't trust this guy, so I could see it. Yeah, trying it again, but they made it so obvious that this was going to be the bait and switch. Like, it was so obvious. This is the only lead that we had the whole time, and we knew it wasn't going to be that. And then we could talk about how the actual reveal was later on, but yeah, the whole time you know it's not going to be him, and he is. He's a weird, sleazy, gross dude with a bad sense of humor, and it's just yeah. I don't know. I'm not a Simon man.
No, and the same with Melissa. Like, the best friend of Amber. I just thought, to draw these strings that she is in love with Simon, but hadn't told her best friend Amber. I couldn't believe it, and it was just another unbelievable thing that they've added into this one. Because, and then this sort of connects back to what we were saying before, the jealousy with Simon and Lynn talking. It was just too obvious, which led into that, that whole 3-person who's the wrong person sort of thing.
So Melissa, it seems they developed this relationship quite strongly over Skype and stuff, or like they weren't actually together. They just built this romance because they chatted online or like video called. Secondly, I don't actually even remember Melissa from the other films. Like when she came in, I was like, I have to assume that you're in them and you're Amber's friend, but I actually honestly don't remember her. So she seemed nice, so but I similarly didn't believe the relationship.
I think I've stretched it. I got nothing else. There's no point talking about anyone else. Like, okay, good.
You covered 2 characters that I hadn't written down. So,
John Schultz, director. I've only got the same stuff to say as we've said before. Hasn't done anything else.
He did the second film. He didn't do the first. He did the second.
True. So, Aliens in the Attic, like Mike.
Yeah,
drive me crazy. Melissa Joan Hart. I think last time I said, my memories of that is that Britney Spears video clip. That's it. That's it.
That's not a bad suite of films. Like he's not a nobody director.
Yeah, it's very true. So I wonder what's going to come up on his agenda next. I'm very interested to keep an eye on that.
Yeah,
okay,
true.
This is your time to shine. This is where you're going to tell me what are some things that or some scenes you enjoyed in this one.
I was very generous. I made sure I had stuff.
Good.
And you'll see there's the same character that comes up in both of my things that I liked. And you'll see why I'm dirty on the film by the end of it, because one thing I really did like is when they were playing that card game or whatever that Christmas game was that they were playing to kill time. And Mr. Little comes in and he asks, when it's just Emily in the room, he says, who was Eldovia's greatest king and father? I thought that was a very nice touch just to bring it all back to family and Christmas and not forget who her dad was. I thought that was beautiful. And the other thing that I liked was when Mr. Little again told that story about the ghost and the chilling breeze in the dungeon one Christmas Eve. I wanted that film to be more of that. I'm like, maybe they're going to go down a bit of a creepy path here about a haunting, and I was all in for that, but it wasn't the case. But anyway, I gave it a tick. They were the 2 things that I liked in this film.
Good. This is. I'm looking forward to the things you didn't like. I liked the moment of Ty and Richard sort of bonding over making that crib together. I didn't mind that. I thought that was a nice little moment. 2 dads talking about their issues being royalty and having to try and work out what they can do to help their wives in gaining more leadership roles and doing things for the crown. So that was good.
Yep.
I enjoyed all the little tiny references to the previous films, like out in the courtyard at the castle, out in the forest when Richard's on the horse, he's like, oh, not that way again, sort of thing, and the archery and just all those little things that just reminded me of the first one. So I like that. And the last one, I liked Ming at the end giving that necklace to Amber. I just thought that was a nice moment. So they're my things that I liked.
Not good. You were clutching as much as I was.
Yeah, because the next part, I think, is going to take a while. Tell us some things you didn't like.
I'm genuinely coming off the long run here. Normally, if I don't like a film, I just give up in writing the scenes I don't like. I could have picked something in every single scene to mention here. That's how ridiculous this movie was. But I'm going to start off. We're 75 seconds into the film, and Amber's doing a recap of their life, and they talk about how they had their honeymoon on the beach, and it looked like they were standing in front of a Microsoft screensaver.
I'm just going to say yes or no. I think I've got a huge list too, so I'm just going to tick, yep, got that one.
I thought it was ridiculous that the book for building the crib was bigger than the Bible. Like, it just wasn't even a funny joke. It's just not that many steps. Like, there's a bit more cerebral effort into making this thing that I didn't like, but they stopped this war they talk about in the year 1419, and they signed an ally treaty because they were feeling a bit of festive spirit at Christmas time. That was the reason, yeah? They were having this massive war. These countries hated each other. But then hey, it's Christmas. Let's just be allies for the next 100 years. And then that was it? That was the reason?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. Just I wish more wars ended that way. And that's all I'm going to say. I thought it was hilarious when Simon was referenced twice as a bad boy. There's probably other ways that you can talk about him. And now the fun starts. Okay, so this is when I got kind of mad, but funny mad, when they bring up there's a curse on the unborn child. and I was enjoying Richard brushing this aside, this rubbish of sorcery. And I'm like, oh, good. Like, he's reacting the way you should react. But when Amber got hysterical about it, I lost it. I was just like, no, you can't. This is not the major plot point that we're going to be relying on.
And it had to be the first one too. Like, that was just.
And then there's a line not long after when Melissa comes in, and Amber says very seriously, "Our baby's future depends on it." And then she goes in to brief Melissa on the curve. I can't do this. This is not the crux of your film. It annoyed me that she didn't look like she was 37 weeks pregnant.
Good. I've got that too. I go, Amber looks about 3 months pregnant when she's meant to pop in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Also, when they call the doctor and the doctor says, oh, no, she's not going into labor because she's not due until January. That's 2.5 weeks away. For a doctor not to know that you can have a baby 2.5 weeks early and just, oh, no, you guys are actually incorrect. If you check, it's January 11 that that doesn't happen. Doctor. I mean, these are things that are so avoidable. When she went into labor, it was honestly like I was watching The Bold and the Beautiful, just the way it all happened. And there's 17 people in the room, sort of jaws drop and things like that. I thought it was absurd when they send the girl who can't walk down to the dungeon in the dark when it's like windy and cold and she can't move very well. Come on, like there's so many people there that can do it. Similarly, I thought it was ridiculous that the father who's about to have a baby is the one who's got to go retrieve the doctor when, again, there's able bodies all over the castle that can do it. Didn't make any sense there. When they're in the dungeon, Emily is the one that uses the crutch to get the key. So Emily's not very sturdy on her legs. Like, mum can use the crutch and probably reach it better.
Without her falling, then we wouldn't have got the reveal of the scroll.
It is true, but it's bad parenting as well to subject your daughter to that in the first place.
But it's all for a waste of time anyway, because she just uses a hairpin to. I thought that was ridiculous as well.
That's true. Really, did it really well too. Never in and out. It just clicked like a key. Thought it was a very open situation for her giving birth. Everyone was just in the room next to her with the door wide open and having general conversation. And I think they're probably even having cheese and bickies and wine and things like that. And now I'm nearly done. But the whole reveal where they did kind of like a Sherlock Holmes reveal with everyone in the room to say who was the guy who stole the scroll. I thought it was pure insanity. The fact that it happened, as soon as it happened, Simon proposed to Melissa while Amber's having a baby and Mr. Little's going to jail. And I've got big issues with the fact that they just like dumped it on Mr. Little, who's been a great character for the first two movies, a wonderful friend of the family. They're like, oh, crap, we've set this whole thing up to think that it's not these bad people. We don't know who to make it. We don't know this guy's backstory. We'll just dump him in jail. I thought that was awful. I had big issues with that. And the last thing I want to mention, this always going to be the worst thing. It was when they're signing the treaty. She basically just wrote Amber in capital letters as her signature. They weren't even trying. Honestly, they weren't even trying. So there you go. That's the things that I didn't like in this film.
Good. A lot of the stuff is the same, but I've got a couple of extra things we'll add in. So agreed with the honeymoon, fake beach. I'll race through these. The snowstorm. It's just like, quick snowstorm. Something bad's going to happen. I thought that was done so poorly. It really frustrated me. And then when they're together for the first time, it's like this big, huge performance, this ceremony for about 10 people ready to sign a treaty, which leads to the empty box. And we literally got this zoom in on everyone's face being so shocked.
And the designers were in there, of course. There's only special people, but the wedding, the baby shower planners and the designers were there, which is good.
The whole idea of the curse. I mean, there was a scene where Amber's having a nightmare and wakes up in bed dreaming about the curse. That was hilarious, like absolutely hilarious. The baby yoga / meditation classes that made me laugh.
Oh yeah.
The idea that sniffer dogs can track down a piece of paper, I thought that was very interesting as well. We mentioned the dog. We mentioned the doctor, racing to get there, crashes, no airbags, just crashes a car. She's fine. Just the door. She can open the door. What does she get out of the car?
She could have left. Yeah.
Ming, the Amber's in labour. Oh yeah, I used to volunteer in a maternity ward. Oh, what a convenience! How good was that? That was great. And then when Richard gets to the doctor in the car, and he goes, you know how to ride a horse, don't you? And she goes, I do indeed. What an amazing doctor.
Similarly, he was riding it. She just jumped on the back. I could have done that.
That Mr. Little being the villain really annoyed me because, like you mentioned, I can't touch on it as well as you did, but it was great throughout. And just to throw him under the bus at the end, that really annoyed me. And then the proposal from Simon was ridiculous. Same as what you said, the labour. That's the quickest, easiest, most simple thing I've ever seen in my life. And finally, the final shot, presenting the baby to the town and the press and people like that. And then it was like they couldn't afford a proper crane. And the camera sort of like zooms out. It was like shaking everywhere and going backwards for that final shot of everyone. Well done. Great way to finish. Okay. What's he saying? What are some ideas in this one?
The ideas are there's a lot about equal rights and feministic empowerment, which is great, very explicit, but it's still nice to be touched on, very relevant in 2022 specifically, even though it's 2019, sorry. These films always do cover a lot about tradition and the importance of traditions, but how traditions can continue to mold and change and shape with new ideas. And then there's the idea of trust and who you can trust, and maybe you should be trusting people that you didn't think you could trust. Maybe you can't really trust the people you thought you could trust. Anyway, there's a lot of deceit in this film. So they're the big three for me.
Good, yeah, pretty much the same. I think the idea of modernity to do like independent women signing important documents, like you mentioned, the media and the press. Like every time we see them in these films, they're only interested in the gossip. They don't care about the important things. History is important, like you said, a bit of culture and what's going on. So I think there was like a line: history isn't made by those who follow the rules. So you've got to be groundbreaking. You've got to break that mold. And the greatest adventure is having kids, isn't it? Just that whole journey of having kids that we barely saw anything about because we're too busy.
I was going to say that, didn't they? Yeah, they didn't do it.
All right, what did you take away from this one?
This film just leans so far into that cheesy Christmas movie formula that I can't, for the life of me, take seriously. And I normally have a pretty high threshold for this type of stuff because I love Christmas movies, and if they're a bit cheesy and they want to lean into the magic of Christmas, I'm all for that. But this film just goes to another level that I can't stomach.
I mean, like a positive thing, I really enjoyed seeing the cast all back together again, just seeing those familiar faces. I thought that was good. In saying that, Rudy, Amber's dad, he's got the easiest paycheck, the best paycheck in the world in the last couple of films. Literally get a trip to Romania and probably do half a day's worth of work. Well, good on him.
He got replaced though. The guy in the first movie is different to the guy in the second movie. So he just did the second and the third, which were pretty easy gigs.
Very easy gigs. And then Princess Emily, she sort of got thrown to the side in this one, which is a bit disappointing. I mean, she got to play a board game and got to be pushed around on a sled on ice. That was about it, which I thought was a bit sad because she was
she got
pretty
a kiss,
important character. She did, but she was pretty important to understanding what was going on in the first film anyway. So
I agree. Yeah, it's a good call.
Do you go onto IMDb to look anyone up?
I did initially to see Rose McIver because I didn't recognize her when it started. I was like, they've replaced Amber. I did think it was her, and I'm like, oh no, same girl played it. There you go. But I had to check straight away.
Yeah, no, I
Because
couldn't go on.
she was dialing it up, man. She was so ridiculous. I'm like, this is a different person.
That's hilarious. I didn't go on. Did you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
I do. Would you have liked to see a version of this movie where it was all caused by a 200-year-old ghost who haunts the dungeon?
Yes, that would have been great, but it's a completely different movie. But if you could have made it like Ghosts of
It would have
Christmas
been good,
Past, you could have incorporated the idea of Ghosts of Christmas Past.
You could have had.
Oh, we're onto something here.
I just wanted it to be scary and ravage them a little bit. That would have been fun. It could come good in the end, but this film needed a bit of kick, I think. And I thought we'll go in there, but we didn't.
Any others?
No, that's all.
All right, I've just taken a couple of quotes. The royal baby focuses on a hunt for a 600-year-old treaty rather than hunting for any entertaining personalities. Do you agree?
Yes.
I thought you would. Next one. This is the dullest movie about an ancient curse that's ever existed. True or false?
That's very, very true, because you just don't believe any aspect of the curse and you pity the people that do.
Good. I agree as well. Man. All right. I think we're ready to
that was cool. Yeah, great.
Let's come up with an average out of 5. What are your final thoughts?
I have to say, when I come to my rating, the movies in this podcast that I've given half a star to have been so bad that they've almost offended me in a way. Brahman Naman, Paradox, and Pee Wee's Big Holiday. I might 3 movies out of the nearly 200 that we've done. I've given 0.5 stars to. So with that in mind, I'm comfortable with this one, knowing that it knows its place as a cheesy Christmas movie, really, really cheesy. Even if it does lean too far into it and I thought it was ridiculous, I'm still going to give it 1 star.
Nice. Okay. That's generous of you.
It is generous.
Yeah. Like I said, it was good to see the familiar faces. But instead of focusing on those new interesting characters like Ming and Tai, or the actual issues faced by awaiting parents in the lead up to a birth, that could have been interesting. We're given like a whodunit mystery that makes no sense and destroys all the good memories out of the first 2 films.
Oh, no.
1.5.
Oh no, it's ripped it apart for you, has it?
Yeah, made me very sad. So I guess it's a 1.25, pretty low, very low. That's probably one of our lower Christmas ones. We're usually pretty generous, but yeah, sorry.
It's
guys.
a stinking movie, man. It's so bad.
We're on socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Question: what could a 4th film be about? If you could make a 4th film,
it's got to be the Revenge of Mr. Little.
Ooh, I like that.
He breaks out of jail and they just can't find him, but stuff keeps happening around the castle.
And then he can like have a nice reveal at the end that he's the Christmas spirit that's brought them all back together or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought maybe
and they drop all the charges.
I thought a good one could be them bringing up a child with different values, different lifestyles. That'd be interesting.
That's good. Whilst Mr. Little breaks out of jail.
Or ditch this cast and let's get a film following Ming and Tai and their family. What's Christmas look like to them?
That's true. That's true. They've just got to come a little bit out from the cheesiness. Like, I get it, but I think if you look at the numbers, that you're losing your audience as well. They've had enough of it. So do something different. Or we don't have a 4th film.
True. Or all of our ideas here were probably better than the 3rd one anyway. So listen to us.
Well, we know they were.
Good. Well, we're back next week. Spoiler alert, we have released this one previously, so it's a repost from a while ago. We did this when it we did a poll, I think, didn't we? For audiences to decide.
We did, yeah. That was the bracket. We did a bracket over lockdown.
So Marriage Story is next week from 2019. It's a drama directed by Noah Baumbach and stars Scarlett Johansson, Adam Driver, Alan Alda, Ray Liotta, Julie Haggerty, and Merritt Weaver. So can't even remember what we said about it, but I'm looking forward to re-listening. So if you guys want to check out Marriage Story, that will be in the feeds next week.
So well.
Other than that, as always, been a pleasure. We always have fun when we don't like movies.
I'm glad. I had a ball. I had a ball going through all the things I didn't like. I was watching this film And at the end of it, my wife was like, "Oh, how was it?" I was like, "Oh, it was rubbish." She's like, "I heard you laughing quite a bit." I was like, "I was laughing at the movie. Like, that's how bad it was."
It's not from comedy, it's it. Okay. Good. Well, I'll speak to you soon, and we'll speak then.
I'll see you next time.